If you're struggling to grow them pins, implement some of these pointers, and you may be halfway on your way to freaking people out like Tom Plants.
I think if you can get really, really strong with that range of motion, like you're gonna have a big set of quads.
The difference between females and males for me, I'll normally start with a...
Here's exactly what I would do if someone came to me and was like, I want to really improve my leg size. Can you kind of write me a plan? It would be...
I'm Ryan Stevens.
Dr. Taylor Waters.
I'm Ben Oliver.
Welcome to the Superhuman Show, yeah?
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Superhuman Show with your hosts, Ben Oliver, Ryan Stevens, and the doc, Taylor Waters. Now, probably the most important episode we've ever done.
Yeah.
We've been building up to this one over 60 plus episodes.
60 plus episodes of complete nonsense. Now this is the one.
Yeah,
this is the one you should be listening to.
Yeah. How to get massive legs.
Yes.
We've been asked the secrets for several years now. Never shared them until today. So, Ryan, how do you get massive legs?
Get a training partner.
Okay.
It's not a decent one, is it?
Yeah.
Listen to heavy metal music. And scream before every lesson.
Listen to Creed.
Like, all legit, the other two, well, people do scream before they lift and listen to heavy metal music. But I literally think getting a training partner is a legit answer.
My number one would be learn to handle massive discomfort and pain when training.
Yeah.
Because I think that's normally what it takes to train legs effectively, is because there's such big muscle groups, the lactate buildup and kind of just that discomfort.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Like sometimes I'll film my set, because I train in my garage at home, I'll film my sets of like squats and stuff. And in my head, I'm thinking, God, I was close to failure. I watched the video back. I was like, God, I had another 8 reps.
Yeah.
So like,
Again, feelings.
Feelings, yeah. So like, if you have a training partner, like we've trained together, you know, you'll be like, you've definitely got another 8 in there. It'll push you on. It's like legit, get a training partner if you're going to train legs.
How much would you say genetics play a role in having big legs?
Quite a big proportion.
I would say quite a big part. I think if you're, because there's some guys that I watch train legs and they are, they're going after it and they have absolute spaghetti legs.
But what would you rather, if you had to choose between like a mediocre upper half and a big thick set of trunks, or a mediocre lower half and a pretty jacked up top?
The latter, mediocre lower body and a jacked
Yeah,
up.
I
I want to
would,
look jacked in the top, man.
But if it was a really shit pair of legs and a jacked up body, then I wouldn't want that.
To have a set of sparrows. Like, regardless of what the upper part looks like, I'd hate to have a small, thin set. Like, really.
Like, if your missus has thicker legs than you, then you're kind of like...
But do you know when some people, like, their legs aren't that, like, developed, but they've got, like, they're just a little bit thicker.
Yeah.
But when you see someone like who looks like they could be in a wheelchair, it's like I'm surprised you're staying up straight with those. Yeah, for me is a write-off. I'd rather the small skinny top and just a big thick set of pins.
Yeah. Like, I do think, like, for all muscle groups, you're gonna have a genetic ceiling, right? However, you never hear like the saying, never skip arm day. It's always never skip leg day. Like everyone's training arms and chest.
Yeah. The arms are getting addressed regardless.
So I do think there's a component where like people just generally don't train legs, and if they do it half-assed.
I think it really completes a physique as well. Like if someone's got a strong set of legs on them, it does, because you'll always, if you've got a good top off, like you've got big blocky abs, big round delts, but you have got a really underdeveloped lower half. Like I'll see some of the elite men's physique guys, I'll see their rig and I'm just like, oh mate, that really lets it down. Like when they've got that almost like a child's lower half. I've got a child's lower half, but the middle half, I guess, or the middle part. It's that really underdevelopment of it's just bone, but then up top it looks jacked as hell. So then it almost ruins the upper half because the lower half is so small. So I think if you do want to build a really aesthetic look, a strong set of pins is a must.
So let's break it down in terms of like training frequency, training split for legs, volume, and then exercise selection and kind of like sets and reps and things as well. So I would say like if your legs are lagging twice a week.
Yeah.
Like I think 3 times a week, I think because they're such big muscle groups, you need the recovery. Like if you're going ham on legs twice a week, even then it might have to be like 3 times every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you got to, like every like fourth or fifth day.
If
I
you're
think-
able to train legs 3 times a week, you might be training like a poussoir.
Yeah.
Unless like the volume per session is like if you're doing 4 full body sessions where you're literally doing like 1 hard set
Yeah.
of quads and then you do I can see it. But if you're doing a lower body day, it's if you're training hard, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to hit 3 hard lower
Yeah.
bodies
Yeah.
per week.
And I would, like, I don't like training splits that don't work in like a 7-day span, just because I like I like the routine of training the same muscle groups on the same day of the week.
Yeah.
So if it's like, oh, you're going to train legs like every 3 days or whatever, then it's like, well, then my third week is going to be different to week 1, and I've got different rest days. Like
You get upset.
The
then,
world operates on a 7-day like week, and then when you're like, oh, I've got a 9-day training split, it's like, well, like you're fucking complicating it for the sake of it.
confused
You
it.
get
Like,
upset.
I would if. Because he gets upset. He throws his toys out the pram.
I hate it when someone
Yeah.
says I'm upset.
Yeah.
Like my missus will say like, "Oh, you're upset," and you're like, "I'm not upset. I'm pissed off." Don't say I'm upset.
But I would. So yeah, here's. I think this would be a good way of doing it, just to lay it out like very practically. Because it's all good and well talking about like, oh, like rep range should be around this and kind of this. But if I just lay out like, here's exactly what I would do. If someone came to me and was like, I want to really improve my leg size, can you kind of write me a plan? It would be 2 leg workouts a week. One would be quad focused, one would be hamstring focused. And I would still train the other muscle groups on those days, but it might be 3 quad movements and 1 or 2 hamstring that are like isolation movements on the first session. Second session is going to have a heavy hip extension, and then maybe 1 or 2 quad movements, more isolation stuff. Volume is going to be probably around 10 to 12 working sets total for each workout. Maybe a little bit less, you know, if we got some heavy hack squats and things in there. Rep range, I'm not going below 8 reps, you know, for anything. I'm going to be looking at 8 to 20. And I'm looking at slower eccentrics, no bouncing out of the bottom position of any kind of squat style movement. Hip hinges are going to have nice slow eccentrics, controlled concentrics, hard squeezes at the top. Isolation stuff is going to be between 10 and 20 reps. Again, slow and controlled. But that's like really, and I'm going to make sure that they get stronger on all of the movements, isolation and compounds.
Focus on progressive overload, isn't it?
I did find when I was building my legs up, I did find that higher rep ranges, again, I don't have the evidence to show, but I seem to develop more muscle
100%.
training in those higher rep ranges. I never built much leg muscle
when I
in
was-
like sets of 5.
When I was my strongest at squatting, my legs look nowhere near as good as they do now, and I don't squat anywhere near as heavy now. But I'll be doing much higher reps on pendulum squats, hack squats, leg extensions, leg curls.
Yeah.
The volume there is huge, and I think your legs can handle quite a lot of volume.
Yeah.
You know, you look at sprint cyclists. You know, granted, cycling is purely concentric, but they do so much work. Like that's where the quads get huge, and so it's finding a training routine that you can handle the most volume as often as possible. And that's where like doing 3 times a week, it's like you're probably limiting the amount of volume you can get across a week because you're not recovered in that time frame.
And that's where the individual component will come into it, isn't it? Because like you want the maximum volume you can recover from, and obviously that's different for everyone, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
like I can recover. I can only do like 3 sets, and it takes me a week to recover.
But
You know what I mean?
I'm also going to try and progress that volume over time. And I would also probably add in some cycling on their non-leg workout days. Like, or maybe it might be some like sled pushes, backward sled drags, again, concentric stuff. Your legs are going to be sore most of the time, but I'm just going to, I would probably do some kind of leg thing every day, you know, like even incline walking if you want your calves to grow.
Yeah.
Like it'll be a lot of work. But then the other thing that I would say as well is I would back off upper body work because I want the extra recovery for the leg days. You can't pour more into an already full cup. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make when they try and focus on arms, shoulders, chest, back, legs. They just add more work of that muscle group onto their already complete routine. But it's like, if you're going to add more, something's got to give. And so you find your strongest body part, you put it on maintenance. And so maybe you're doing like half the volume as normal for your upper body. So you stack the cards in your favor for your leg days. where you can really go eyeballs out. And most people just aren't willing to do that because they think, well, I don't want my upper body to shrink. Yeah. But it's again, it's like you have 100% say recovery.
Capacity,
yeah. And it's like, if you want big legs, like maybe they're taking up 60-70% for this phase that you're doing. Shit needs to get put on maintenance on the other stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people, they try and maximize everything, don't they? And then they just lead to burnout.
Yep.
You know, the goal is to keep all the plates spinning. And some plates are going to be spinning faster than others.
Is there any movements that you would not put in? Like, if someone to say like training legs twice a week, is there something that you would probably avoid?
Turkish get-ups.
Turkish get-ups, yeah.
I think the one thing that you see has gained more popularity, especially in like the bodybuilding field, is like the adductions.
Yeah.
The adductions.
It's so funny you say that, though, because Dante Trudel was talking about this about 15 years ago, where he was like, if you don't genetically have good legs, get so strong that you can max out the adductor machine, and it's going to give the illusion that you have much wider legs than you do, just by like basically like not giving yourself a thigh gap.
Yeah. But then it depends on the overall work that you're doing. Like they're like an add-on. They wouldn't be like a main movement. Calves is one I feel like they can handle quite a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
Like I train in calves once a week, never developed my calves at all. Like I needed to hit them minimum twice a week consistently over time and get pretty damn heavy as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I actually used to start my leg workouts with calves.
Yeah, otherwise I just wouldn't do them.
Yeah, if I like I just got done doing like high rep leg presses, leg extensions, hammy curls, back extensions, I look at the calf machine and I'm like, oh no, stuff that. I'm just gonna go eat. But yeah, I would just start with calves. I split it like you as well, so I'd have a quad focus day and a hammy focus day. So like my quad focus day, I would start off with a leg extension, then I would move to some sort of hip hinge, like a Romanian dead. And then I do like leg presses, and then I would do walking lunges, and then then obviously the calves were at the start before the leg extension. And then the hammy day, I would start off on a hammy curl, then I would move to I would do like some sort of, I used to like a Smith split squat. So like the stability was there, I get good range of motion there. And then I would move on to some sort of hip hinge, and then I sometimes do like back extensions. And obviously calves be at the start again. So it's like one of them was always ham dominant, but the common themes that were in there were leg presses, always had leg presses in there, and I always had Romanian deads in there.
Yep.
I was just trying to get, those were the two movements that they were staple in all my leg training, and it was like, how strong can I get in these exercises? The Romanian dead would generally be like an 8 to 12 rep range, long 3-second eccentric loading. And then the leg presses, then I would go as high as like, I wouldn't really go much below 12. And then suddenly I would take it up to 20. And I used to do every now and again, I would do this 30 rep leg press to failure. So what weight can I get a 30? So then like, I would do it like, say like once every like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I'd have a look what I did the last time, and I would try and beat it again, and then try and beat it again. And it was just one of those things, like it was at the end of a session and I'm just going to empty the complete tank on this. And again, it would be like, good foot position whereby you're maximizing the range of motion at that knee. You know, you see some people leg press in really high foot, wide stance, barely any
Folding
range
their
of
lower back
motion.
and
And it's like, mate, that's not going to build big legs. Like you need as much flexion and extension as that from that knee as possible. And then if you can get really, really strong with that range of motion, like you're gonna have a big set of quads.
Yeah.
It's like, pick exercises you can train through the full range of motion and get stronger in them.
Yeah, get strong as fuck in
Would
them.
you, because we do have some female listeners,
My fiance.
how would you change that for women that want to kind of just grow their legs? So my view is, I'm probably just going to drop a little bit of the quad work and replace with glute focused movements. I don't do a lot of glute focused stuff for guys. I may add like a machine hip thrust in there or somewhere, but practically speaking, most dudes aren't going to go through the hassle of setting up a barbell to do barbell hip thrusts. 2, I think with a solid lunge technique, RDLs, and even squats and things like that, you're going to hit your glutes pretty pretty well.
Yeah.
The difference between like females and males for me, I'll normally start with like a more of a compound glute movement, like a hip thrust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll normally finish with a glute burnout.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to give Taylor a glute burnout like monster walks and stuff at the end of a
He'd
session.
absolutely do it. Though.
Yeah.
So that's normally the differences I do with like females. I'll start with like a hip hinge, like a hip thrust, and finish with a glute burnout to finish. You
Yeah.
know, like your cable kickbacks, your monster walks.
I do like to program a hip thrust for guys if I've got access to a plate loaded.
Yeah.
So it's just like you can just stack the
yeah.
plates on and go. But it will end up being like the third movement in. It won't be one of the prime movements that I'm really looking to drive.
Yeah.
But I think like, again, because it's a good posterior, so like the hamstrings and the glutes come into play. Doesn't really affect the lower back too much. You're not loading up that lower spine unless your tech is pretty poor. So it is one that I do like to bring in, especially if they do find like the consistent spinal loading is a little bit too much.
I find for most guys, it's not that they've got weak glutes; it's that they've got really tight glutes and hips, and that's where they normally get lower back issues.
Yeah.
And so I might put like a glute movement in as almost like a primer before they start.
Yeah.
It might be like 2 sets of 10 single leg hip thrusts, just to like wake things up a little bit, and like a couch stretch or something, just to loosen off their hip flexors. But as like a heavy loading movement, I maybe a plate loaded hip thrust, but aside from that, nothing just destroys my glutes more than Bulgarians and lunges.
Yeah.
Like if you have the right foot positioning, and this is the thing with leg training as well, like slight adjustments to foot positioning can massively change where you like feel the focus. Like you can make a Bulgarian all quad, elevate your heel, get have a nice close stance, massive knee flexion, destroy your VMO. You can open your legs a little bit further, smashes your glutes. Like same with lunges, you can go real narrow,
Fast
you can go
stance,
wide, like huge differences.
I think it's for guys like us as well. We were doing so much thrusting from a young age.
Got
Like,
big
we didn't need
glutes.
to.
Were we?
Oh no! Actually, I used to program the hip thrusts in loads.
But yeah, I think like, because I know Brett Contreras has kind of populated, made like hip thrusts and everything the most popular movement on the planet. But it's like,
he's always training lower body. He's got shit legs.
yeah.
And quite a pancake ass.
Yeah.
Like, mate, you're the glute guy.
Yeah.
And you look like you got a long back. Like I don't. Yeah, he's a bit sus if you ask me.
Something else I do personally, sometimes I'll prioritize hamstrings at the start of the session and then finish with quads just because my hamstrings are weaker than my quads. And my quads are great.
Most guys are going to be lagging in the hamstrings as opposed to the quads, because they're, again, leg press is probably more fun, than doing the RDLs and the leg curls and things.
That was always me on stage. Like I've always had developed quads, so like quads were probably probably my strongest muscle group.
Yeah.
And then like I turned to the sides and it was like, oh,
Guitar strings.
They thinned up a little bit.
But I probably, if the goal was just to build big legs, I'm probably not going to put squats in.
No.
Maybe a Smith machine squat, but even then, I'm probably still going to lean more towards leg press, pendulum squat, and hack squat.
Pendulum, a leg press and a pendulum.
Just to take the low, especially if I'm doing a hip hinge like an RDL, we're still getting some erector work in there.
Yeah.
But it may be too much doing a squat and that. And then also, for most people, unless they've got favorable like limb lengths for a high bar close stance squat, that kind of like wider stance powerlifty, like more hip focused squat, it's not a great muscle builder. No. And again, the risk of lower back injury and stuff, you're smashing your nervous system gets a bit trashed from it as well. And if you're training legs twice a week, I'm probably not going to want to put that in there. Not to say it's a bad movement, but I don't want my lower back to be a limiting factor. If I'm trying to blitz my legs for say 8 to 10 weeks and get some growth, like I'm probably not going to put them in.
I remember. So I think after my second year competing, some of the feedback was just like that posterior chain. So like the hamstring, the lower back area was definitely a weak area for me. And I remember I did like a full 9-month mass phase, and I had Romanian deadlifts in twice a week, every week for literally the whole 9 months. And I remember I went from like, it was obviously post show, and I was doing like Romanian deads with like 90 kilos for 8. Like I was weak as piss after the prep.
Still not much stronger now.
I was going to say, what you doing 100?
Yeah, let me finish the story and then we'll get to it. And I went from 90 kilos for 8 to like 140 for 10 over a 9-month period. And my body weight went from like 82 kilos or whatever it was on stage up to like 102 kilos. So I gained like 20 kilos body weight. I added, 50 kilos onto a Romanian deadlift. And then when I dieted down the next time round, like you could see the development in the hamstrings and the lower back was much, much better. So it's like, I just got that one movement and I was like, if I want to build a big posterior, if I can add as much weight onto that as possible and add on as much body weight as I can within reason, I have to build muscle. That's going to have to develop to some degree. And it did. It was definitely the best my hams and my lower back have looked. And then since then, I've lost the body weight and I don't do the much anymore. I took up running and now I've got really weak back.
One other thing to how to get massive legs, be willing to do that boring work every single week. One exercise, 9 months, getting stronger.
If you're not dreading the leg workouts, you're probably not going hard enough in them. And because the hardest thing is like, you say you're doing 3 sets of 10 to 20 on hack squats, like, and then knowing that in 7 days you have to go back and beat it, like it mentally wears you down, and you're like, fuck, it's just gonna be more painful every time. And then you start rushing reps, you start bouncing out the bottom because you're trying to get out of that pain, and it's just accepting like it's gonna really hurt, and it's really funny because we take for granted that feeling of like lactic acid or lactate buildup, like whilst you're training, or just the muscle fatigue. We get used to it. Like, you get like an arm burn. You're like, oh, like this, it feels good. Like it's like I'm getting a massive pump. For people that haven't experienced it,
again. Do that impression again.
Of the camera. But when you train someone that's never experienced that, they can almost feel like they're going to throw up after doing bicep curls. And like if you've never trained legs to that extent, Jesus Christ, like you might spew on one of the first 1 or 2 sessions.
The difference between upper body training and lower body training when they're both done hard is massive. And like
100%.
lower body work is really fucking hard. Upper body work, even at its hardest, it's somewhat moderate.
Legs are one of the ones where like if you're benching, you can go to failure mentally. And you'll fail physically before mentally you tap out. Legs, 99% of the time, you mentally tap out before you physically can go.
That was what that 30 rep to failure leg press was. That was not part
like
of my training. It was to see, it was like, what can my brain take? Like, at what point am I going to just quit? Because it's very rare you hit, like on a bench press, you'll hit failure, you can't shift it, and someone can finish the rep off for you. You rarely see that on a leg press. You rarely see someone like stuck in the hole and then someone assists them. You see some people, and you see this a lot on social media now, where they like fake hit failure on a leg press. I train really hard and then they go down, but like the rep speed is pretty good. And then they're like, oh, and they do this like, and then and they let it drop on them. Like you're literally acting in a gym to like give this illusion that you train really hard. And I can see that you train really soft. It's one of the most infuriating things that I see on social media now, because like almost like JP brought that like hard training back to the forefront of bodybuilding. Like Dorian Yates was the first like real hard. Well, Mike Mensa maybe, and then Dorian Yates, and then JP, but JP's been more around that social media era now. And then you see these like 19-year-old kids like doing these like, it's all about training hard. Like, mate, you're an absolute mincer.
But also, like, I mean, if you're
training hard,
if you're training legs twice a week as well, though, you probably don't want to be going to absolute failure on everything, because you got to do it again in 3 days. And so it's like you're probably going to be at like a 9, like a solid 9, but like that extra 1 fucks your nervous system like all week. And so it's learning to kind of be like, okay, if we went down and failed this rep, like you are going to be trashed for, your next workout. So you have to play the long game in the sense of like, well, my goal is to accumulate work over 7 days, not kill myself day 1. And then day 4 is a bag of shit because I'm so tired from day 1. Like, it's like, you have to go hard, but you have to live to fight another day as well. And it's like one guy that I worked with years ago, his thing was like, he said like, don't be the hero. And he's like, and he was more talking to injuries, and he's like, don't be a hero, live to fight another day. But like, I think that makes sense in leg training as well. It's like, you have to go hard, but it's like, you don't have to set a world record every single session. Like, you should always try and progress it over time, but like, you go too hard on like, you know, you do like a 20 rep set on a hack squat.
You can write off your week.
You write off the session, and it's like, well, I can't even do my leg extensions now. So it's a fine line, because it's hard to say that to someone, because 99% of people, they're not going to go that hard. Like, they mentally can't do it. But for like someone like you guys, I'm going to be like, stop the set now. Because if you go for gold now, you're not going to be able to do the next 10 sets. But for like a beginner, I'm going to be like, fucking 3 more. Like, you're nowhere near that yet. But
I like that comment of like one I heard the other day was like, train today to allow yourself to train tomorrow. So like you say, keeping in mind, you're going to have to do this again tomorrow. So don't empty the tank here. And again, that was more from an injury standpoint as well, but it does hold some legs. It's like, you don't need to kill yourself today.
I think, like, what do they say? Like, train close to like 1 to 3 reps from failure to build muscle. And like, with upper body, you can guarantee most people will do that. But like leg training, they'll probably be like 8 to 10 reps from failure. You know, so it's like, so they're not even meeting that threshold. So, and that's something to be mindful of as well.
I remember there was a lad I used to train with. He was actually my old housemate. And he used to do similar like I used to do with the leg press. He used to do a set of squats, and he would just be 130 kilos max rep. And his squats were like Tom Platt squats, like quite narrow feet. And he was a tall lad. He must have been like 6'1". Narrow feet, ass to heels, like real deep. And I remember spotting him for one, and he was like in the 30s of reps. And every like he like got to like 10, and it was like you could see they were getting hard, and then he just kept going and going. I remember being like, that is foul. Like, I remember watching. I don't know, his back held up.
My friend Lloyd did German volume training, which is 10 sets of 10 with 60 seconds rest in between sets. And I was timing the rest periods, and he did it with 140 kilos on back squat. And smashed all of it, and then never did it ever again.
Oh my Lord.
But it was like, you know, you're doing 100 reps to 140 kilos in basically
15 minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
Reps,
and they were ass to grass, like one of the most impressive feats I've seen in the gym. And threw up afterwards. You know, it was like basically in the fetal position afterwards.
That's like being in a car crash. Like, you're gonna go home. You're gonna be in a bit.
You're not living to fight another day.
No, but it was fucking epic to watch though.
That's training today to potentially not wake up tomorrow.
To die tomorrow.
To die tomorrow.
But I think like the fundamentals of building muscle are the same for legs as any other body part. It's just it's a bit more uncomfortable.
I think Tom Platt is a really good person to look at for training legs, because he had a massive set of trunks, and it was like the quads were massive, the hams were massive, the calves were massive. He definitely had a good genetic build to build good legs well. But if you look at him train, it's like the volume is pretty high. The range of motion was massive. Like, you look at all his like squat patterns were like ass to grass every time. Whether it was like leg press, he used to do sissy squats, back squats, like they were all real deep. Like, he used to do like sets of 20, set of 25 on like back squats. So the volume was high, the frequency was good, the genetics were good. And if you look at the size on those pins, mate, they are huge. They're like those what are those cows with the myostatin deficiency?
Oh, it's like the bluebell.
Yeah.
Bluebell cows.
Yeah. And they're just these massive
balls.
That's what his legs look like. There's so much muscle accumulated around.
You know, like there's like the Saturday night live, like the Saturday night shows, like Jimmy Kimmel and stuff. He was on one of those shows years ago, and he pulled down his pants to because he's a good looking dude. And everyone was like, oh, let's take a look at the legs. And it was funny because everyone's like, ooh, yeah. And then he pulls them down and everyone goes, ooh. Because it was like too big. And he's there like flexing his legs and everyone's like, oh my God, that's disgusting.
Because when you see him in like a t-shirt or a shirt, you can see he's a chunky bloke, but he doesn't look anything freaky, did he?
Yeah.
And then he pulls the pants down. Why don't you show us the demo now? And
God,
Get him down.
maybe in the summer.
just drop the kegs, little piss stain on the pants.
Little dribble. Oh God, get him off.
Imagine he did that on the show. Oh, he pissed himself.
A little bit of a dribble.
Oh, Tommy Piss.
But
Pissy Platts.
But yeah, I think like in terms of volume, frequency, movement patterns, it's very, very similar principles to developing any other muscle group. But it's just the sessions are going to be a little bit longer. They're going to be a bit more painful. You need to make sure that you are going close to that, like proximity to failure for the majority of the sessions,
Which is a skill that you might have to build up over time.
Yep.
And getting a training partner can help with that.
Get a training partner, someone
Massively,
that can keep you in those movements to get those final reps, but and put your other muscle groups on maintenance whilst you're chasing that. And then most importantly, fucking eat enough food.
Yeah.
Like that's the one thing that we haven't spoke about yet. Like anytime you're trying to build any muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. Like especially with legs, I don't want to say you're gonna burn way more calories, because I think the amount you burn in the workout is quite low anyway. But you need to make sure that you're eating enough to recover from those workouts. If you're trying to get really strong legs, put yourself in a decent surplus. Be willing to gain a bit of body fat. Weight moves weight to an extent. You gain a bit of body weight, you're going to feel stronger on those movements as well. But like, make sure you're eating enough protein and getting enough calories in.
Yeah. Almost like some guys when they lift weights and they just get quite fat over time. But like you'd see they get these big thick legs on them. So even like, you see some rugby players, for example, it's like they don't lift loads of lower body weight. Like they do some strength training with their lower body, but obviously they're doing a lot of sprinting as well. They're doing a lot of scrummaging as well. So the legs just get a lot of volume over the course of the week. Then they hammer the pints on the weekend. They get the cals in.
Hey, that's a surplus.
I know. So they just have this this byproduct surplus just because of their poor eating habits.
Yeah.
Then they also just accumulate a load of leg volume, and then you look and they got these, this thick ass, these thick old quads and stuff, these thick calves. So it's like just accumulating volume over time and just eating a lot.
And then I would just say, like, drop the ego and train full range of motion.
Yeah.
The amount of people that you see like quarter rep in leg presses and hack squats and not like, and if you're unable to go full range, like work on that first, because just like, even if you spend a few weeks just working on your mobility, and whether it's ankle or hip or whatever it is, to be able to ass to grass a hack squat or a pendulum or a leg press, then start loading it up. It's much easier to maintain the mobility once you've got it. Yeah. But if you start trying to, for the sake of progressive overload, and then you start cutting your reps like a little inch and then a little bit less, and then, 8 weeks down the line, you're like, oh, I've added 200 pounds to my leg press. And then it's like, you're not even removing the fucking safety things. You're just pressing out the safety things. Like, I would take it, someone doing 2 plates, with their heels up by their ears, than someone that's doing just these quarter reps. Because you go too low, you're going to get fucking crushed. Like, you're probably going to injure yourself as well. But like, you need to train those bottom positions, specifically for quads as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So if you're struggling to grow them pins, maybe implement some of these pointers, and you may be halfway on your way to freaking people out like Tom Platts.
Yeah.
But thank you as always for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify, and we'll see you next time.
If you love this show, please like, share, and leave us a 5-star review so that we can help more people. I'm John Madsen, Superhuman CEO, reminding you to always go get what's yours.